Hello everyone. Evan Sittler here for your Friday recap by XpertVR. This Friday, we're jumping into VR headsets, Decentralized Education, Bonelab, and Expert Flugtag. Let's jump into it. Starting off, we have some exciting and surprising news from Lenovo. So they are releasing their Think Reality VRX headset. And to be honest, I hadn't really heard anything about this until they made this announcement, but very exciting because as you can see, it is a completely standalone VR headset and goes toe-to-toe with Pico, Meta, and HTC in the standalone headsets that they're offering. Uses some of the same power that these headsets use with the XR2 chip inside of them. But the interesting thing here is that Lenovo is targeting the enterprise market. This is also something that HTC is doing, at least partially. But Pico and Meta, they have been going after the consumer market, kind of more in the gaming space. So this has big applications for the education space, especially with Lenovo's track record of having their ThinkPads in education and having their computers used throughout educational institutions. So really excited to try out this headset, hopefully soon doing a comparison between this Think Reality VRX headset, the HTC Focus 3, the Pico 4 that was just announced, and the Meta Quest 2, as well as the Meta Quest Pro or Cambria project that will be released in the coming weeks here by Meta. So very exciting to see this competition continuing to heat up, especially in this enterprise space where many companies haven't been focused, but obviously us as XpertVR in the training education space have seen huge benefits for, and many businesses are seeing these benefits above and beyond any of the entertainment stuff that is offered. Moving right along, decentralized education. So if you haven't been following the blockchain space, there are these things called DAOs, DAOs. Basically, a DAO is kind of like a co-op. It allows people to come together and work on a common goal or common project. And by using the blockchain, there doesn't need to be any management. There doesn't need to be anybody holding on to the funds that fund this project or anything like that, because basically the blockchain smart contract would hold all of that money, and then as initiatives are voted on by the greater group, it would release those funds to fund those initiatives, and then those people can come together and work together to create whatever their project or their goal is. So very interesting article here talking about how there are some organizations or some DAOs coming together to look at the education space, as well as just theorizing where this will go in the future. And very interesting looking at how multiple schools could possibly come together to create a DAO or be part of this DAO and share educational content, as well as share tips and tricks and budgets possibly. And this could be schools or it could just be educators. Very interesting how this could come together to cut out some of the middlemen and cut out some of the waste of where funds are going and focus on education for students and having that greater focus in the education space. And this kind of goes right along with an exciting announcement. XpertVR this past Wednesday, just 2 days ago, opened up our Defenders of the Eduverse community. So this is a Discord community that is kind of like any other community that's out there. If you're just looking at it surface level, we have Discord chats to share information. We have events coming up, all kinds of workshops and talks coming up. So all those things that many communities have. But what makes this community even more exciting, one is because we're looking into XR as well as blockchain and these other technologies that connect in the Web3 metaverse space. But two, we're making sure that this community isn't just all about talking and communicating. It is about taking action. And to promote that, we're doing all kinds of things. One, we're offering our simulations and some of our services greatly discounted rates, as well as working with partners to do the same to help out the education space. And most excitingly, we are putting funds together so that we can bring multiple schools into a collaborative project where the schools are working with us at XpertVR to develop a simulation that can be used across all the schools or institutions funded by XpertVR. And by doing so, you then, as the institution that is part of this project, get to use those simulations in your class. But by giving your input and being part of that project, you're also then helping us build a product that can reach schools around the world and continue to increase the accessibility, engagement, and impact of education, especially in the immersive space. So really excited for that announcement of what we're building and creating with the community at XpertVR, but also just very excited to look at articles like this one to see where a community like that might go in the future. Second to last, because we'll get back to one more thing with XpertVR, is Bonelab. So Bonelab, game that just came out yesterday on Thursday, showing off some very exciting mechanics in the virtual reality space. So in this game, when you pick up an object, it actually feels like that object has a real significant weight to it. So if you're picking up a very heavy box, it's hard to lift. You might have to drag it behind you. If you change your avatar to be a really tall, muscular, strong man, you'll be able to lift that box easier than if you change your avatar to a short gnome, let's say. So very exciting as a game, and Bone Labs is made by the same studio that made Boneworks a couple of years ago, used some of the same mechanics and just very impressive. But what's even more exciting about this is those types of physics interactions and other mechanics that this team is building out could be used for teaching, either in the mods that are available through this simulation in this game, or as well just through developers learning from the innovations that they've created and bring those into training simulations that they offer. So very exciting to see this sort of innovation in the gaming space and look at how we can apply it to the enterprise education training space. And then lastly, you've heard about it for a couple weeks, and XpertVR this past Saturday competed in the Red Bull Flugtag competition. So very exciting. You'll see the video right here. We were launching our Flugtag craft off of the airstrip at Ontario Place that Red Bull had constructed. You can see here Drew McNeil, my business partner and co-founder. He was the pilot. Myself, Josh, Chris, and Aldrich were the four pushing the craft off of this airstrip. And you can see we got about 10 meters of air there. And with that, and with our Rick and Morty skit and the VR headset design of our craft, we placed 4th place out of 30 teams. So unfortunately, just missed the podium, but we had a ton of fun. It was really cool to talk about VR with a bunch of people, checking out our VR headset on the craft, and just sharing the good word about VR education. So thank you for tuning in for another XpertVR Friday recap. I hope that you're having a great September 30th. So have a great weekend, and I will see you next week. Evan out.